If you have a bank locker, you must have got a text from your bank about revised locker agreements. The Reserve Bank of India has extended deadline for banks to complete the process of renewal of locker agreements by 31st of December 2023. But what do these agreements mean? And what are you agreeing to? Under the old norms, bank assumed responsibility and the role of a custodian of the locker, which means that the bank was liable to any damage to the articles stored in the locker. Under the new agreement, banks are only responsible for the basic safety of locker and is not liable to pay compensation for loss due to natural calamity or act of God, such as an earthquake or floods. A plain reading suggests that new rules absolve banks of locker responsibility, but there is more to that than meet the eyes. We will discuss all of that. Joining me at this point in time is CH Venkatachalam, who's the General Secretary of All India Bank Employees Association. Also, Krishna continues to be with me. Krishna, this is an interesting development, but this doesn't happen suddenly. There is a Supreme Court ruling and hence the revision in locker agreements.
Yeah, correct. And you're talking about a time when security and data security are the top of minds, and this is not exactly a top of mind when it comes to bank locker security. But yes, in the complex world that we live in, where technology is growing at such a rate, it becomes uber important to make sure our bank lockers are safe. Because let's face it, putting money in banks and convincing people to put money in banks is a process that began in this century, and we finally managed to convince, even now, not everybody on this planet to put money in their banks. And and locker services provided by banks are even more important than the money that you put in, if not equally important, even more important. That's the kind of security that people expect from bank lockers. So the kind of the revised agreement, the final agreement will tell the story of where we are going in terms of the trust, Shweta, that you're really creating between the customers of banks and banks at a time of great churn and turmoil that we live in the world.
Okay. I am yet to be told whether CH Venkatachalam has joined us or not. Sir, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Thanks very much for speaking to News9, sir. I want to begin by asking you, what exactly led to banks to revise the terms and conditions and norms under which lockers were operating?
You see, even earlier there were conditions for taking a locker and all. But of late, some problems have come in some of the banks. Certain instances took place, and even some burglary and all. And some of the customers who took this locker, they had also taken legal course that you have to reimburse, etc. So after that, Reserve Bank has now come out with a thing that banks are not liable for the contents which are kept inside the lockers. But there is a general policy that the branch insurance is covered. So for any burglary overall, that insurance will come. Because the contents are not known to the bank. What is kept inside is not known. So how to insure that? So how to reimburse that? That's a problem that banks are facing. So now they clarified that you must take an agreement when somebody takes a locker, that banks are not liable for reimbursement, etc. when something happens. So that's how it's a recent one, and all the banks are now taking that agreement from the customers.
Okay. What does it mean for customers, sir? At this point in time, people who are listening to us who have a locker in a bank, what does it mean for them? Does it mean that their article in the bank is no more safe, as is the plain reading of it? Or does it mean in case of a fire or a health or a safety hazard or a natural disaster, if the item is lost, they will not be able to either get the money or recover the item? What does it mean for people?
No, that's right. See, I will in fact read the exact RBI circular. The bank shall clarify in their locker agreement that they do not keep a record of the contents of the locker or of any articles removed therefrom or placed therein by the customer. They would not be under any liability to insure the contents of the locker against any risk whatsoever. Bank shall under no circumstances offer directly or indirectly any insurance product to its locker hirers for insurance of the locker content. This is one thing. Second, there is an instruction. Banks, with the approval of the board, shall have a branch insurance policy to minimize the loss due to incidents like robbery, fire, natural calamities, loss during shifting, of the branch, etc., affecting the contents of the locker. So that part, general insurance is there, but exactly what is kept inside, even the customer, are they ready to say what is kept inside? What is the value? They don't declare anything. We don't know what they are keeping inside. Some, in fact, now, after this Reserve Bank guideline on this 2000 rupee note, we generally get the information that in many lockers, the movement is more. That means people have kept some 2000 rupee note inside the locker. We don't know whether somebody has kept 10 crore worth of property or some jewelry or
I mean,
whatever it may be.
you
So
definitely can't keep
how to ensure that? That is the
Okay.
problem.
Okay. I mean, from what I'm reading at this point in time, you definitely cannot hoard large amount of cash. You can keep jewelry, you can keep documents, but you cannot hoard cash, arms, or anything that is in violation of the existing rules.
No, that is one thing. Main point is we do not know the value of the content inside, and they are not declaring to us. They would not like to declare also what they keep inside the
Absolutely.
locker. So how to ensure that?
Then
So
how? Okay.
general insurance is there for the branch against fire.
So
against
what is the
dacoity.
general insurance, sir? If you can apprise our viewers.
No, see, all branches looking to their various total value, suppose if their own property, building, or they have their furniture, they have the computer, then they have the locker overall value. For that, the branch is insured, and out of that, some indemnity will come to that particular locker if that is damaged. That is the only
What
thing.
is
There
the
are no
amount of insurance, sir? Let's say I have, and I'm giving an
it is not
example
individual.
here.
That's why. That's why it is an insurance for the branch.
Okay.
So it will come pro rata. You do not know what will get damaged. Suppose some fire is there and the locker is not affected at all, then they will not get anything. Suppose only locker part is affected by fire, computer and other things are not affected, then the entire reimbursement may go to the pro rata or the people who are affected by the fire in their locker. So it depends. It is not amount-wise. Total amount is only mentioned in the policy. Branch is insured.
Okay. So branches insure, and there is no fixed money that you're likely to get in case.
Not for individuals. Not for individuals.
Okay, there is no fixed individual money. It's only the banks that and their branches that are likely to get. This is interesting, Krishna. From what I read and how I read this means essentially that although banks are not completely absolved of any responsibility, they are still responsible for ensuring the safety of the locker, for ensuring that the article that you've put inside the locker is safe. However, in case of a natural disaster, they refuse to take responsibility, which essentially means it's going to be lost with you if we've not kept it in a locker. And same is the case with the bank. If it gets lost with the bank, it's nobody's mistake.
Right, but let me be the devil's advocate for a moment over here. According to the new agreement that people have to sign, and by the way, let's keep this in mind, the new agreement have to be signed by the 30th of June. So we have a month's time, exactly less than a month's time to do this. And according to this new agreement, Shweta, the fact of the matter is that the bank will be held responsible for up to 100 times of the annual locker rent, according to this new revised agreement, in case of negligence. So this does put a lot of onus on the banks to make sure that they are extremely careful there's no negligence, because this entire thing began last year when there was negligence on the part of a bank and they opened a locker inadvertently. That's when RBI even decided to look into the entire locker agreement rules and the rules of the game. So now that we have a new agreement, and in this new agreement, the bank is going to be held liable up to 100 times of the annual locker rent, and that's something that everybody has to bear in mind. And in the new agreement, you have to have a bank account in the bank where you're having the locker, where you have your money getting deducted straight from your bank account. Either that, or you have to have a fixed deposit. And the fixed deposit, in case you don't have an account at the bank, you have to have a fixed deposit, and that is, the bank is permitted to take an advance equivalent to 3 years of rent, of locker rent, and charges for breaking open a locker by way of a fixed deposit.
Okay.
So, in a sense that the bank and the customer are on an even keel, are trying to arrive at an even keel, where the bank is providing 100 times responsibility. And in case we mess up, we pay you 100 times. And in case there is a problem with you, we have enough money to make sure that you don't play truant with us.
Okay. And what is the locker fee like with the bank, sir? If you could apprise us of what the fee is and what 100 times of that fee would be?
Yeah, see, there are different sizes of lockers, small one, medium one, large one, extra large one. And also it depends on the area where the branch is located. In a busy residential area, the rate is more, whereas in remote rural area, it is less. So it depends on that. But definitely it is very affordable because for the risk that we are taking in the sense that people can keep their valuables in the bank locker
Okay.
that way. But as he said, that either they have to pay the rent or they have to give us a deposit so that on the interest of it, we adjust the locker. Because many cases, banks, we are experiencing a problem where people do not pay the locker rent. And so we are losing revenue. Ultimately, we have to resort to legal action, then invite some public people and then break open it. All types of problems are there. And that is why banks are also very, very careful. But it's a very popular one. Normally, nothing happens. Normally. Now, recently, some burglary took place, some fire took place. So, all these things have come to light. So, that is why now the banks are taking a new agreement which says the bank shall not be liable for any case of deterioration or damage of the contents of the locker, whether caused by rain, flood, earthquake, lighting, civil disturbance, commotion, riot, war, etc. That is understandable.
Okay.
Then bank shall not be liable for any damage or loss of the contents of the locker arising from any act that is attributable to the fault or negligence of the customer. This is also quite okay. Bank shall be discharged of the obligation and shall not be liable for any cost, loss, or liability incurred by the customer, including for any damage or loss of contents of locker in the event of locker is broken open and the contents dealt with in keeping with the provisions of this agreement. So that happens, suppose we break it open. So regardless of the above, the bank's liability on the locker shall always be subject to limitation under the applicable law and regulation. So general insurance is there. It is not possible for the banks to insure the contents because we don't know the content, what people
Right.
keep inside, what is the value.
Okay.
So
I
I
want
think
to,
this
sir,
must be understood properly.
sorry to cut you short there. I want to come in quickly and I want to understand, if I'm operating in Delhi and I have a small locker, could you help us
Okay.
understand what the locker fee is? Let's say I have a branch in South Delhi and I operate a locker. What is the fee of that locker and what would be the 100 times of that fee?
A small or medium locker will be around 3,000 rupees to 4,000 per year.
Okay. Assuming that it's the upper limit, which is the 4,000, 100
Yeah.
times of 4,000 would be 4 lakh rupee.
Yeah.
And if I have kept items worth 4 crore rupees or anything more than 4 lakh, between, you know, 4 to 40 lakh rupees, the only money that I get back would be 4 lakh. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right.
That's the meaning. Yeah.
Okay. And
Because
all of
somewhere we are related to the risk and also the cost. Because inside value, we do not know what people keep inside. It may be diamond, it may be jewel, it may be some document, it may be cash, it may be currency. We do not know.
Okay. And therefore, sir, I want to understand what was the need to change these new, you know, agreements? What was the need to come up with new agreements and amend the old agreements?
Because last
And
2-3
did under the old agreements, all of money was insured, or the change has only been with respect to what will be protected and to what extent it will be protected?
earlier the bank agreements were not of this much of detail.
Okay.
But recently, some problems have come in some of the banks where the lockers were broken open by some thieves and some burglary has taken place. So people are now claiming, I kept so much, this one, that one, Allah Gulla, all types of things. So they are codified and they are safeguarding the bank's interest. This is Reserve Bank instruction. All banks are now following because now they have burned their finger because the agreement was not having clarity. Then the liability came. So now they are clarifying, that's all.
Okay.
If
And
customers have any grievance or how better it can be done, I think they should take up, and from the All India Bank Employees Association, we are all for the customers. We shall definitely take it up with the Reserve Bank, with the Indian Bank Association, even with the Finance Ministry. We will help the customers. We are fully with them. But without knowing how much value is kept inside, it is not possible for the customer to expect that it should be insured. That's the problem.
okay, so while the new agreement deadline for banks is 31st of December. Banks have been advised to roll this out in a phased manner, which is to get all their customers agree to signing new licenses or agree to new license terms and conditions. What are the timeline that we're looking for people?
No, that's why now Reserve Bank has put these things, and slowly I think if customers have problem, it can be extended also. But what is the problem that customers are experiencing on account of that? What is their objection? That's more important, so that we can take up the matter with the RBI.
Okay. And
Otherwise, it's a normal course. See, tomorrow bank do not want to be in trouble legally. So they are safeguarding themselves. This is a new condition, you sign it. But normally, it is not going to happen. 99% it doesn't affect at all. It's a safeguard that banks are undertaking because of the bad experience. They become vulnerable legally in some of the cases. That's why.
okay. And a general question of the public.
Never banks were responsible for the content. Never.
Understood, sir. So therefore, my next question, a general, understanding in the public, and just to clear the misunderstanding of sorts, the new agreement will not allow banks to inspect contents of the lockers, is it?
Yeah. We cannot. We are not supposed to. That defeats the very purpose of this facility.
Right.
I am giving you a safe place. You can keep whatever you want. Except that generally we are telling you are not supposed to keep any ammunition, arms, cash. These are all general things. But even if somebody keeps, we do not know. Because we don't go inside. We open the locker and come out. The customer will keep something inside. He only knows it. We have no idea at all.
And so therefore, and we also have no clarity on whether the locker charge is going to be hiked anytime soon. I understand this is bank specific, but there is no movement there.
That will happen for some other reason also. Number one, everything is going up in our country, hike, so rent also will go up. House rent is going up, everything is going up, that's one thing. Secondly, banks' other income has become a very important source of income for the banks. And all the more on the other side, see, banks have two sides of income. One, my interest income on the loans. Second one, non-interest, other income. There, because of haircut, because of NPA, because of this insolvency, bankruptcy code, banks are going for huge haircuts. So our income on that ground is coming down and our profit margin is coming down. So that is why banks are resorting to minimum balance charges, service charges, locker charges, rental charges, for everything they are hiking. There I believe that customers have to raise their voice, that they should demand, you recover the money from the borrowers, they cheat you and you lose money, why do you pass on the buck to me? That is not coming up. I would support them also, for customers, they should come. If really the money is recovered with full, I think the rent and other service charges can be further reduced also.
All right, Mr. Venkatachalam, thanks very much for taking time out. Krishna, what it essentially means under the new agreement is that the relationship between bank and a customer, a locker customer, would be essentially that of a lessor and a lessee.
Yes.
Which means I am giving you the locker, but I'm not responsible for the contents inside that locker. I'm only going to be ensuring basic safekeeping. You are responsible thereafter in case of a natural disaster.
Yeah, and also this also sort of separates or dehyphenates the relationship of the bank with the contents of the locker, and that's what's important, because what is the point of having a locker if there is no secrecy in the locker, right? So in the sense that, so I would say that I know it looks like in a situation, it looks like the bank is washing its hands off natural disaster, but then it's a natural disaster. You would know that once there's a natural disaster, it's very difficult to pinpoint blame on any one particular institution,
that is
barring the quality of the disaster rescue operations.
That is correct.
You know, so in that situation, if the bank is completely away from knowing the contents of the locker, then that I would say is going towards the Switzerland way of having lockers.
Okay, so not just have safe lockers, but also have lockers that are not within the purview of either the banks or people in the bank. They can't see what you've kept inside, but it remains protected. Banks, of course, are ensuring basic safety. You're responsible for everything else.